So, aside from the UK, I would say another insane, another insane country that is basically seeking to rival the UK for the worst country ever on online speech is none other than Australia. Australia is terrible and continues to pass these, or attempt to pass rather, these ridiculous laws around speech. And lately, in the past week, they've been talking about this new bill. It is called, it's by a Labor government, of course. And by the way, who knows if this lady's like liberal or conservative, whatever. A lot of conservative accounts actually do a good job documenting this stuff, but I definitely don't support them. Anyway, she tweets Labor's hate speech censorship bill applies to, quote, conduct that occurred before its commencement. So essentially, this hate speech bill can charge people for past speech and past social media posts when that speech was legal at the time. That's terrifying. Okay, we don't want laws that like retroactively criminalize speech. We shouldn't be doing that anywhere in the world. But I think the big problem is that this hate and extremism bill doesn't actually protect people, and in fact, it causes there's a lot of really legitimate reasons to be concerned. So let's go through some of them. So, it criminalizes a person who publishes or distributes written material which is threatening, abusive, or insulting is guilty of an offense if he intends to stir up racial hatred or having regard to all the circumstances racial hatred is likely to be stirred up. So, okay, this is like, again, you would think that this makes sense, but the problem is that who determines what's hateful, right? Who determines what is hate speech? Hate speech laws, we know, are consistently applied to marginalized groups. So I think this is a good TV segment where they're talking about this issue.
Policing speech and the hate speech has been on the cusp for a long time. And I think we were all hoping and praying that it wouldn't actually come through. But like you said, they kind of this week rammed it through under, like you said, the Trojan horse of anti-Semitism. It is 100% what they've used to push this legislation in. And I think it was Craig Kelly who said, you can go to prison for 7 years now for saying we have to beat Labor. Theoretically. No,
Look, if anyone brings that case, but seriously.
They will. This is the problem with this sort of precedent. We have to kick them out. Like where does it end? Who gets to define these arbitrary laws? Who defines what hate speech is? Who defines what hate symbols are? I would actually push back a little bit on what you said, Caleb, in that some of the legislation you think was good in terms of displaying terrorist symbols. Because if you look up in the USA, the ADL's list of what they deem as terrorism symbols or hate symbols, one of them is White Lives Matter. The other one is Thor's hammer. A third one is Celtic crosses. Being Celt myself.
Just to be clear, guys, this is like Australia's Fox News. Okay, so they're really concerned with White Lives Matter because this is like Fox News Australia. But she's making some good points. I just want you guys to be like, wait, what is she talking about? These are right wingers that are mad about it, which is good. We want the right wingers to be mad about it. At least someone's getting mad about it. But that's why she's talking about that stuff. I think she actually makes a really good point because if you look at the like hate symbols, right, we're also talking about the watermelon emoji, which was deemed, a hate symbol against it was considered anti-Semitic or whatever. So she's making good points. I just didn't want people to like watch it and be like, what? White Lives Matter? Like she's a conservative. These are conservatives.
I find like it's outrageous to me that there is somebody in some form of authority somewhere across the world who deems a Celtic cross as a form of hate symbol. And so you've got to always look at what precedes and hopefully heed warning and example. And if you look across the world, what's happening, we would be naive and stupid to think that it isn't possible happening here. I mean, who defines this? See, because if people are afraid to speak out loud and they think they're going to end up in prison, we're not going to be able to discuss ideas. We can't say, you know what, immigration is a bad idea because that could be racist. We're not allowed to say that. I think it's really bad women are in, trans.
Yeah, we don't need to listen to the hateful ideas that she wishes that she could say. But But my point is that she's right, right? Like this lady is a conservative, but she's making legitimate points that actually apply to liberal values as well. And do I like the stuff that she's probably about to say about immigration and trans people? No, I don't agree with her. But I would defend her right to speak and not get arrested over those views. I think that's like the distinction, because I think especially people that are progressive, myself included, like you're like, gosh, this is really hateful, right? Like this is hateful stuff. I don't want people to be amplifying those views. Why can't the government pass law against that? The problem is, you guys, the government doesn't care. The government doesn't have your best interest at heart. And who's in the government? Inevitably, someone you completely disagree with on those issues will be in the government. And then they will say that, like, praising immigration is hateful because it's like hateful or bigoted to white people, or it's like, it's or saying free Palestine is anti-Semitic or something like that. Like we don't want to give the government that power. That's the whole point. We should be protecting our rights and civil liberties and our ability to speak freely, because once you give the government that power, you can't get it back, and you're going to you're going to end up getting arrested, or as she said, you can go to jail for 5 years or 7 years, to all because you said the wrong thing that the current government kind of deemed unfair. So I just think that it's important to acknowledge that it is. I think because like the Labor government introduced it, conservatives are really mad about it. And it's great to see conservatives actually care about this. They don't actually care. They don't want to protect liberals' rights to free speech, to be clear. They really only want to protect their own right to free speech to say hateful things. But it is good that they're trying to fight these laws. That's good. If the conservatives want to fight against these bad laws, good. We'll take their support, but they're only doing it because they want to say their own hate speech, to be clear. Anyway, Australia is terrible, and I just it's very it's very terrible that they're once again, they've banned all the kids from social media under 16. They're rolling out these mass surveillance programs, and then here they are once again putting this totalitarian, restrictions on speech.